Yu-Ti asked Tao Ting, a disciple of Matsu, "Who is the Buddha?" The master called out, "Oh, Yu-Ti." Yu-Ti responded, "Yes, master." Whereupon the master said, "Your mom." This is obviously not the actual story. In the original, the master answered, "Don't seek him elsewhere." But that answer makes equally as little sense as the statement "your mom." There are many such Buddhist stories called koans or mandos. Zen masters have been using them for millennia as one of the main ways of helping their students achieve enlightenment. Take another story. A monk asked Yoshu, one of the greatest masters in China, "What is the ultimate word of truth?" Instead of giving him any specific answer, the master made a simple response, saying, "Yes." Chen Lang came up to Shi Tou and asked, "What is the idea of Dharma's coming over here from the west?" The master said, "Ask the post over there." "I do not understand," said the apprentice. The master replied, "Neither do I." As you can see, none of these stories seem to make any sense, but yet they are used to help people achieve enlightenment, which is considered incredibly valuable, rare, and difficult to attain. The reason for the absurdity of such stories lies in the very core of Zen Buddhism, and according to its philosophy, in the very core of the universe as a whole. In order to understand why koans helped many monks achieve enlightenment, first we need to understand what enlightenment truly is. Most people would say that it is a state of mind in which the person is at peace. This definition is not entirely wrong, but it doesn't quite dig deep enough into the nature of the Buddha. Enlightenment, which in Zen is called Satori, is at its core the instance in which one achieves a completely new viewpoint of reality. Enlightenment doesn't happen gradually, it happens in an instant. At one moment, a person sees the world in an ordinary way, and in another moment, the perception of life as a whole completely changes. The main difference between the normal and the Satori perception of reality is that in Satori, all opposites and contradictions of the world, like yes and no, good and evil, are united and harmonized into a consistent organic oneness. The world, as perceived by an enlightened person, is not divided, but all things are one, and one thing is all things. It is a very extreme, often painful and profound individual experience. But the opening of Satori is the remaking of life itself, when it is genuine, for there are many simulacra of it. Its effects on one's moral and spiritual life are revolutionary, and they are so enhancing, purifying, as well as exacting. With the removal of the obstruction, a new vista opens before one, boundless in expanse and reaching the end of time. As life thus feels quite free in its activity, which was not the case before the awakening, it now enjoys itself to the fullest extent of its possibilities to attain, which is the object of Zen discipline. This unfathomably deep realization is also referred to as looking into one's self-nature. According to Bodhidharma, the first Zen patriarch, without this experience, the whole of Buddhism is a mere artificial bubble without any meaning. All the philosophical and psychological knowledge of the world is nothing compared to the insight into reality that Satori offers. When mind is not understood, it is absolutely of no avail to recite and discourse on idle literature. If you want to seek the Buddha, you ought to see into your own nature, which is the Buddha himself. The Buddha is a free man, a man who neither works nor achieves. If, instead of seeing into your own nature, you turn away and seek the Buddha in external things, you will never get at him. The Buddha is your own mind. Make no mistake to bow to external objects. This quote by Bodhidharma instructs us that the understanding of one's mind, the looking into one's self-nature, or in other words, achieving the state of Satori, is the most important and crucial thing in Buddhism and in life as a whole. You can have every knowledge and power in the world, but without Satori, you will never be at peace. Zen masters believe that we humans can never find peace in the world that our senses perceive. Thus, something that is above the senses and above our traditional way of seeing the world is necessary. The core of Satori is exactly that. Its inmost nature lies within the fact that it cannot be understood by the rational mind or perceived by senses. An enlightened person can still think and perceive the world with their senses, but they understand that those means are only the human perception, and reality offers much more than we can see, smell, touch, or logically explain. However deep your knowledge of abstruse philosophy, it is like a piece of hair placed in the vastness of space. And however important your experience in things worldly, it is like a drop of water thrown into an unfathomable abyss. A master once asked an apprentice, "What is the reason of birth and death?" The apprentice didn't know how to answer. He started looking for an answer in the notes that he made over many years, but failed to find an answer. He came back to the master and said that he can't answer the question. Instead of giving his disciple an answer, the master sent him away. After that, the apprentice burned all of his notes, as they were of no use to him, and retired to live as a hermit. He reasoned, "What is the use of studying Buddhism, so difficult to comprehend, and too subtle to receive instructions from another? I shall be a plain, homeless monk, troubled with no desire to master things too deep for thought." One day he was weeding and sweeping the ground, and when a piece of rock brushed away struck a bamboo, the sound produced by the percussion unexpectedly elevated his mind into the state of satori. When that happened, he realized that this state is so foreign to the mind of a common human that it cannot possibly be explained with words, and that is why his master refused to give him an answer all those years ago. There is something, we must admit, in Zen that defies explanation, and to which no master, however ingenious, can lead his disciples through intellectual analysis. From this we can conclude that there is no possible way to guide someone directly to the state of enlightenment. The means that we possess of communicating with each other are not enough to transmit the essence of satori. Thus, every person has to experience it on an individual level. As to the opening of satori, all that Zen can do is to indicate the way and leave the rest all to one's own experience. That is to say, following up the indication and arriving at the goal. This is to be done by oneself and without another's help. You have now found yourself. From the very beginning, nothing has been kept away from you. It was yourself that closed the eye to the fact. In Zen, there is nothing to explain, nothing to teach that will add to your knowledge. Unless it grows out of yourself, no knowledge is really of value to you. A borrowed feather never grows. In all of the koans, the master makes a certain remark, or does something, and if the apprentice's mind is ready at that moment, the apprentice experiences satori. The master indicates the way, but whether the apprentice gets enlightened depends fully on the apprentice. Satori is not something you achieve on purpose. It comes by itself to a person when that person's mind is ready. We can never know when exactly it will happen. This will be best illustrated by a diary entry left to us by Kao Heng, a great Zen master from the 13th century. "My master asked me, 'All things return to one, but where does this one return?' My attention was so rigidly fixed on this that I neglected sleeping, forgot to eat, and did not distinguish east from west, nor morning from night, from morning till evening, from evening till morning. So transparent, so tranquil, so majestically above all things were my feelings. My one thought covered eternity. So calm was the outside world, so oblivious of the existence of other people I was. 6 days and nights thus elapsed when I entered the shrine with the rest, reciting the sutras, and happened to raise my head and looked at the verse by Goso. This made me all of a sudden awake from the spell. The meaning of 'all things return to one, but where does this one return?' burst upon me, the question given by my old master. I felt as if this boundless space itself were broken up into pieces, and the great earth were altogether leveled away. I forgot myself, I forgot the world. It was like one mirror reflecting another. When I met my master, he asked me the question again. 'All things return to one, but where does this one return?' To which I replied, 'The dog is lapping the boiling water in the cauldron.' After enlightenment, the apprentice's state of mind completely changed. He was no longer looking for an answer to the question. The new reality he experienced explained everything, but that reality is so profound that it cannot be explained in words. His answer, the dog is lapping the boiling water in the cauldron, seems to be absolute nonsense. But in the state of enlightenment, things don't have to make sense or be understood. One realizes that logical understanding is not the point of life. In Satori, one's mind is above things making sense or not making sense. The reason why these Zen stories seem to be absolute gibberish is because Satori cannot be explained. If it could be explained with words, then it could be comprehended by the rational mind. If something can be understood by the rational mind, then it cannot be Satori, because the whole point of Satori is the overcoming of the rational mind, and that is why your mom is the Buddha.